Those player numbers are almost as bad as my humor. Kingdoms of Marazia is a game that I made over the course of 3 months that started with a 3-day game jam, and then I later went to release on Steam. The idea was really ambitious. I wanted to create an MMORTS in 3 days, which was actually playable by the end of the game jam. The issue was that it was absolute garbage, and when I say garbage, I like really mean garbage. But for someone who had never finished a game before, this was amazing. And so I thought, hey, if I can make this, surely I can polish the game up and release it to make some money. So me and the friend that I did the game jam with spent 3 months working to get this game ready for Steam. Aside from the glaringly obvious visual flaws, a lot of problems plagued the development of Kingdoms. The biggest one being me, someone who had never programmed anything serious in his life. Deciding to make an MMO is a terrible idea. Nah, I'm just kidding. You should try it too. It's amazing and a humbling experience that you won't get anywhere else. But yeah, back to my flaws. The code was an absolute mess. When I set out to write this, I didn't have any goal in mind, nor did I even know what an enum was. And if you're a programmer, I suggest you look up what an enum is. As you can guess, the majority of the flaws I mention are going to basically be a recap of the last point, because good code is everything. Because of the bad code I wrote, there were bugs everywhere, the pathfinding was terrible, there were all sorts of networking issues leading to desyncs and other problems. Basically everything you don't want in a game, and none of this is easily fixable because it was all built with the wrong mindset in mind, and just a lack of knowledge during the initial implementation. But even outside of the code, I don't think it would have been just like, oh hey, the code's good so the whole game's gonna be great. There were a lot of problems with the actual gameplay of the game. It's nice to have an idea in your head of like, oh, this game would be really fun, and this idea is awesome, and all those kind of things that I'm sure most game developers think when they're starting with an idea. But if you don't flesh that out and really analyze, well, why is this going to be fun? Is it going to be fun because of this kind of dream idea in your head? Or is it going to be fun because, well, it's actually fun? And I think a lot of the time people end up in the first category. And I think my game ended up with that too. Though I don't think I was far away from making it fun. I think balance would have really helped because the game was horribly balanced. And that really ruined it because one person could easily take over the whole game world. And, at that point you couldn't come back from it. And generally, it just felt like more work than an actual game. I think sitting down, spending time planning out the game, figuring out like the core loop of the game, like what makes this game fun, and then going from there, working on balance, really spending time with the game. This is why you can't just expect to make a large game in 3 months. It's not that it's not possible, and I think that's what I've kind of always thought, is that like, oh, everyone thinks this is impossible. It's not that it's not possible, it's that it's not a good idea, because you're gonna miss out so much of the important parts of a game. You're gonna really lose what makes that game fun, and polish is important. Whereas I don't mind things that are like early access or any of that, and I really don't mind when graphics aren't polished. The polish that's important, and I always thought it was graphics and kind of just making things fluid, is that gameplay loop and that those core elements of the game. And I think those are really important. So I don't know, I guess what I would say is the part of the game that really should have been worked on is just accepting feedback, improving from there. A lot of people gave feedback and I just didn't have the time to put in what they said, but a lot of good ideas. I never really realized that if I put a game out there that so many people would be willing to help. But a lot of people have good ideas that are actually worth listening to. But anyway, moving on from the gameplay side of things, because I could honestly talk about that all day, I think it might make more sense to move on to the marketing side of things. I'd love to tell you all about my failures in marketing and ways that you can improve in the future, but honestly, I really still don't have a clue what to do to this day. I'll give you a few ideas of my flaws, but I'm sure there's a whole lot more to it and a lot more that I missed. One of the biggest ones being that I released the game on Steam without doing absolutely any form of advertising. I literally just plopped it on Steam and said, well, I hope this works out, and to no surprise, it didn't. That's literally what this video is about. Otherwise, I'd be making my first game was a success, and I'd be doing all sorts of indie development right now on like a yacht or something, you know, the whole dream story, but I'm not. The even greater sin I committed wasn't even the lack of yacht or advertisement. It was that I tried to sell this game for $20 because, well, my brain didn't work properly. The conversation went something like this. The left side of my brain said, "I want money." And the right side of my brain said, $5 sounds reasonable. And then the left side of my brain kicked back with, "Yeah, you're right. $20 sounds about right." Now, the sales were pretty bad at this point. I probably sold a good 4 or less copies because, once again, $20 was a absolutely horrible idea for pricing a product with no following and it not being all that good looking. Just like my OnlyFans, by the way. Check the link down in the description. So later I took it free to play and I saw a good spike in players, spike being like 6 or 7 at the most, but I'll take what I can get. With this newfound knowledge, you know, enums and actually putting effort into marketing, I've started to work on a new version of Kingdoms of Marazia. I actually have a sneak peek for you guys. Haha, nah, I'm kidding. I wish it looked that good. You'll have to wait for my next video. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm sure you didn't learn anything, but hopefully you can convince yourself you did, and go ahead and subscribe so you can see the next useless video. Oh, and while you're at it, you can check out the description for a link to Kingdoms of Marazia Classic, which is the original version, still up on Steam, now free to play.